No page. How about after 115?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. It's got no page on it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
160.
Thank you all for being here. Hopefully, everybody's enjoying the sunshine. It's much needed. I think we're still in the drought, though. So all the snow we got wasn't enough to give us the rain we need. So, but again, hopefully everybody survived the snow that we had, and everybody's doing well. So good to see everybody. This is our second meeting of the year, and look forward to today's meeting and Thursday's meeting as well. Council, you've got your packets in front of you and your agenda. I will ask if there are any amendments to the agenda briefing agenda. Anything from staff?
No, sir.
Okay, great. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adopt our agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr.
I will
Harris.
second that.
Thank you, Ms. Parlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is our comments from council and myself, and I'll start to my left. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm glad it's getting a little warmer. That's nice to see, and hopefully tomorrow most of the stuff will melt and be gone. But in regard to that, I'd like to thank everybody that was responsible for their jobs, our public works and our police, our fire, and the people that were clearing our roads. Did a terrific job for what they faced. Roads look great, so thank you very much. Appreciate your hard work. And I'd like to thank Emily and her staff for doing a great job for the MLK breakfast. It was a nice turnout to see. The speakers were great, and the entertainment or the singing was fabulous. I enjoyed it very much, and it keeps getting bigger, which is great to see. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Jaruzelski.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate what Councilman now said about the town clearing the greenway and other town properties and keeping them salted and safe for anybody that wanted to get out and walk through our rare winter wonderland. I do have a few things I'd like to bring up. I didn't really think they were agenda items, but maybe Andrew could help us with some of them. I had a question around the Complete Streets program that came up in LNTC meeting, I believe last month, and they had discussed how NCDOT is more apt to do full construction on like a downtown development or on roads to be constructed with greenways and sidewalks and crosswalks and other things when the town has a plan together, and that it's be done more in unison, all in one project instead of broken up. I just had any questions about, like, for our downtown project, do we have any kind of complete street plan in place?
We have no funding for that downtown project, so until we get funding, it's really a moot point.
Okay. Because it kind of brings me to, I've requested in the past that our speed limit on 21, being that we have so many pedestrians walking, as I've addressed before, the Safe Streets for All and Vision Zero, to reduce pedestrian deaths, that the speed limit be reduced to 25 miles an hour, as we have, you know, county roads or municipality roads where it's been reduced to 35 miles an hour to match our downtown speed limit, but these don't have any sidewalks or crosswalks or pedestrians actually walking on them. They just have traffic. We have traffic and people here, and the speed limit of 35. You know, the slight speeders that do 40. I just see it as a big safety concern, and especially that we have a crosswalk here at Murdoch Road with no light to stop traffic for all the students crossing the road. You know, 40 miles an hour is about an 80% chance of death in a look at that, see if we can maybe get that reduced or get more input on it?
My advice, similar to what we did maybe 6 months ago, the council passed a resolution to pass on to Senator Sawyer regarding the potential crosswalk down here at Rumpel. I would recommend doing the same thing up there. Just get kind of the boundary of the area you're talking about, the speed limit. We can put that in a resolution and bring it in front of the board to sign and pass along.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I know in the past, we've had conversation with DOT about that. We've not passed a resolution. That may be a good step. I like that offer. They've not been at all open to reducing that speed, but definitely it might be a good step to put
Would
it in a
hate to lose a
resolution.
life before they consider reducing the speed.
Well, I think the last time we talked about it, that was almost a requirement. But
Yep.
I'll
I
leave
will
that.
say, DOT, in terms of speed limit, they pull the crash data, and our crashes, believe it or not, our speed is not a factor in inventory of crashes.
Yeah.
So I think we don't, it is unfortunate that because they would be like, oh, you don't have a speed issue,
Issue.
creating collisions, so it might be resistant, and it is sad that you almost have to, with DOT, operate that way, that something bad has to happen to get it changed.
That's been the normal response.
I have been told in the past that, it being a state highway 21 through town, that it's hard to have it reduced down to 25, but this same road runs through Mooresville, Statesville, Davidson, Huntersville, and through all of those municipalities, the speed limit is as low as 15 miles an hour. And Cornelius included in that, so I would really like to consider that, we do something about it. Yeah, and then other than that, I think that's the rest of my comments for today.
All right, great, thank you. Ms. Harris?
I have to say the same thing, thank you to our staff, all of our staff, from helping me with my password, to scraping our roads. Thank you all for the job that all of you all do, such a great job. Nick and I attended a Central Atlanta breakfast couple weeks ago with the state treasurer. He didn't give us any millions, but he did tell us to let people know to go in there and check, right? To make sure that you don't have any money in there, because he likes giving out checks. And he was he here in Troutman, or did she go there when he gave it to the Helping Hands lady, the $12,000 that Donna got? But anyway, he mentioned that to Nick and I about giving out that money that they found with the Helping. Am I getting her name right? Helping Hands Ministry. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Ministry, yeah.
Help, yes. But anyway, he did mention that to Nick and I. But anyway, it was a great breakfast. It was great. He was so transparent, very open and honest, and we had a good time speaking with him that day. Again, I have to mention as Eddie mentioned, the MLK breakfast. Great job, excellent job. I've known Todd Scott for many years, and he was a great speaker, and the choir was amazing. Not just because my two boys were in it, but the choir was very good and a great addition to the MLK breakfast. And lastly, I have to say Happy Black History Month, and every year I say to everybody, get to know somebody different. Get to know somebody that you don't normally talk to, and let's try to make this world a better place by getting to know each other and trying to get along better with each other. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bartley?
I would like to say thank you to Justin. I've been on the phone with him several times, so I do appreciate the time that he has given me, and I'm sorry that I need so much of it. I'm sure that at some point that will be less. And also to Emily for her help with finding locations for the garden. And I won't repeat what everybody else has said, but thank you to everyone for everything that you've done during this nasty weather that we've had, so thank you.
Okay. Mr. Harris?
Okay, I'll just go and agree with everyone that good work on all the snow and the ice, and it looks like every staff member, each one of these boards had something they had to do because of the storms, change everything. And Andrews even, he didn't mention it, but he had to change the schedule for the planning and zoning and our schedule overnight for different zoning issues. So good work by everybody, and didn't hear any complaints at all about town. Another one is, one of the HOAs contacted me, sent me a note back, a nice note for Austin about him contacting them before he went into this big beaver dam. They cleaned them out up on Hampton Cove Road back in there, where that new development in Falls Cove. And so I gave him the name of the person. That guy sent notes that people just took it up to contact him, so we knew what was going on when we see him down there, and it meant a lot more to him, so they were really pleased to be doing that. And then, with the MLK breakfast, I missed it this year. It's the first time I was at the Centers of Government up in Nashville, so I ended up missing, but I hate it because I've been to every one of them so far, and look forward to it. And the other thing, with the new front here that I got, it kind of reminded me of why Troutman and I still have a lot of common with Troutman, even though I wasn't born here. I did live here for a while and buried, but also I noticed that his birthday, the 121st birthday, was the other day, February 4th. February 4th is also my mother's birthday. So we do have something in common with Troutman too. And that's it. That's about all I really had for this thing.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you for the new books. They look very good. I heard it was your idea, Jesse. Thank you for these books.
Great, thank you. I won't reiterate anything. I had comments earlier. Again, great work by the staff for all you've done in January and end of February. So again, we appreciate what you all do every day. And Mr. Harris did steal some thunder. I saw that birthday down there. I was like, man, I can't believe he went there. But yeah, okay, all right, you got me. I thought I was gonna have at least one thing that wasn't gonna be out there. But, again, I appreciate again what the staff has done this past few weeks, and Justin's still coming back in, and it sounds like he's still answering the phone. So good stuff. So again, we appreciate that. With that, we'll move on over to staff comments and any reports that you might have.
Had just a couple of quick things real fast. I wanted to say thank you to everyone in the community and you all for the patience during the snow clearing, but it seems like that went really well, so maybe I should have just worked that off there. It's always a challenge, especially when there's a lot of ice like we had in that first storm, so our folks worked really hard to try and keep everything clean, so thank you for the positive comments there. That's also in the list of thank you for your patience with the sewer improvement projects that we've had going on around town. That coupled with the surprise work on the electric poles on Main Street has been fun to deal with, but we've been trying our best to manage the work that's ours, which is the sewer work, with the surprise work from the electric company that showed up to make those improvements. So all in the name of progress and better service to the customers, to those utilities, but again, we know it sometimes causes some inconveniences. Wanted to ask if you do have any feedback on the new council packet to let me know. Appreciate the shout out there, Felina. But yeah, just wanted to kind of try something new, and this being a slightly lighter agenda, we thought this was a good time to go ahead and implement it. So if you have any thoughts today or between now and Thursday, please let me know. And then the only other thing I had was I wanted to mention that we've got the retreat coming up at the end of the month. If you have anything that you want to make sure that we talk about that I can find a place for on the agenda, please let me know. I did want to just take a minute just to talk through the draft agenda. The first day is going to be some department updates and then some department sort of big picture items for the next budget year. Typically with these retreats, I don't like to talk too much about budget. We have specific budget meetings to kind of get focused in on that, but I want this to be more of a brief overview of what we've done this past year, and then the second day is going to be more of a brainstorming session. And again, I don't want to be confined by those numbers, because if there's grants or different opportunities that we can take advantage of, we need to be mindful of the budget, but we don't need to let that hinder us when we're making sort of bigger long-term plans. So again, the first day is going to be more of an overview from departments to kind of recap what we've done, to give you an idea of what we may want to talk about continuing during that second day brainstorming. We're also going to have Iredell Economic Development Corporation, Jen Bozer is going to join us, and Kimley Horn, I know at least Shelby Hughes, maybe Liza Patton that's on her team is also going to join us. But goal there would be to talk about the wastewater improvement projects and give sort of an update to the full council, since we've had a couple of members that have been participating in the subcommittee. We want to give the full group sort of an overview of what's going on in the progress of that. So I think that about covers it. Again, kind of have some updates, and then we'll go into sort of a day of brainstorming and talking about next steps, and then all of that discussion will tie into what we sort of program into the budget, and then have those budget meetings in April, I think it is. So anyway, if you have anything you want to talk about with the retreat, please let me know ahead of time. Otherwise, that's kind of what we're planning for right now.
And I'm looking at my beautiful calendar here. Thank you for connecting us with these calendars. And we said 8 to 2. That's what it says on
Yes,
here.
ma'am. Yep.
Okay.
And that'll be at the Troutman Fire Department.
Justin?
Yes, sir.
Just one quick question. With the electric work, do we have a timeline on how long this is gonna take them to kind of get it done, or?
Have you talked to them, Austin?
No, they don't give you any information.
Yeah.
Very vague. They're going all the way through town. Apparently it's going to be more than 2.
So they're going,
They're very vague.
they're going down then, right, towards Old Mountain?
From what I understand, towards Mooresville and Old Mountain, but that's just what you hear. They got multiple supervisors, and I've talked to multiple people, and they give you multiple different answers. All I know is they said it's an emergency.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else from staff?
Sir.
Any other questions from staff? All right, we'll move on to the next item, discussion for a mural of the Jim Lauderdale mural. Want to open that up?
Either way. The mayor forwarded an email to me that I think you all received about the potential for a mural of Jim Lauderdale in Troutman. Jim is a folk country music singer that is, I think, was born in Troutman, or at least lived here for a period of time when he was younger. The gentleman that reached out is heading up the North Carolina Musician Murals Trail, and has done some other murals across the state. There's some examples in your packet. And I believe the request was to put a mural of Jim Lauderdale in Troutman. My thought from this was, if you all want to explore that, then we can get in touch with Mr. Nurkin, figure out the details of what he does, what the cost would be, explore some potential locations, and then come back to you with a proposal. Or if we don't want to do it, we can politely decline. That's an option too. And I will say, if you have any questions, 2 of these murals on the second page are in Shelby, so I've seen them up close. The Don Gibson one and the Earl Scruggs one. And they have held up well. They do look nice.
I know we went through a period where we were putting up murals. I think we did the Mellow Yellow, the couple of murals during town. We've not had any additional art, if you will, in the town. So open to any comments or suggestions, opposition.
I'm all for the mural and going further in to see what they'd like to do and where they'd like to put it. I know that there's somebody that owns one of the downtown buildings that is interested in putting, maybe a different mural on the front of their building that fronts Main Street. So I think that might be a great opportunity.
I think Justin's offer was that staff would go and look for particular locations, bring that back to council, also with any pricing that might be required.
sure he probably has some size requirements he's looking for, so we can work to narrow that down and then bring y'all some options.
So, I'm gonna bring this up, cause I'm sure it's gonna come up. So the sign that was on the Mad Monkey building, y'all know it's gonna come up, right? What type of conversation should we have? Because I think there's restrictions for where the murals can go. And I need to be, well versed in that, just in case I'm approached, about that. So that, I guess that's the answer. Did I just answer my own self? That there, that there are restrictions.
And I think there's also an approval process that has to go through. And I think
He's doing it the right way. This guy's doing it the right way by coming to us to ask and then having us determine where it can go.
Right. I don't know if you want Andrew to speak to any of those requirements, or is that something you want to?
So the way our ordinance reads with murals is they're allowed in the CB, the Central Business District, or the Neighborhood Commercial District. We don't have very much neighborhood commercially zoned property, so that's probably not even worth discussing, but central business. So basically the node where Wagner and Main Street meet. Mad Monkey property was zoned heavy industrial, which does not allow for murals. You recall a text amendment was submitted, but the applicant never showed up to the meeting, so the text amendment was not approved. But if we're going to do a mural, the way our ordinance reads currently, we're going to look for central business zone properties.
Gotcha. Thank you, Andrew.
So we'll wait for a staff report back on that.
We'll do it.
Next item is discussion of Shin Farms dual metering. Mr. Longino.
Thank you, sir. So, obviously, this was a little bit before I got here, so please feel free to fill in any information that I may be missing here. But from the sounds of it, the Shin Farm community, South Houston Road, right past Sanders Ridge, is going to be served with water by Iredell Water and sewer by the town of Troutman. The idea that was sort of settled on with the developer was that there would be an Iredell water meter. So off the main line, there'd be an Iredell water meter going towards the house, and then there'd be a town of Troutman water meter going towards the house. And the idea was if you didn't pay your Iredell water bill, they could cut off their meter, which cuts off the sewer bill. But if they don't pay the sewer bill, we could cut off the meter. And so Iredell Water can say, hey, our meter's still on, but you didn't pay your town of Troutman bill, so they've cut it off. So the idea was to sort of be able to regulate each independently. I think the thought was that we would bill separately, so we could read a meter and bill for sewer off of that, and they would do the same thing. I don't see where that was ever formalized or put into an agreement. It was just sort of said, this is what we're going to do, so let's go do it. So the developer came back to us, and Austin and Benji and I met with them, and they asked if there was anything different that they could do. Austin and Benji and I think that it's perfectly fine for us to put what's called a curb stop valve. I don't think I have a picture in here, but I think there's a link to it in the digital packet. But it's basically a valve that we could turn that would turn the water off past the Iredell water meter. We could lock it, and that way it sort of serves the same purpose, but without us having the expense of a water meter, or the potential for failure with that meter, or the future replacement of that meter. So there are two things here. First, I want to ask you all what your thoughts are on the water meter curb stop valve setup. And then the other is, basically I'm telling you we're going to go make that agreement more formalized and put whatever y'all decide in writing, because right now we don't really have anything, and we need to figure out how we're going to bill for it, how we're going to, if we keep the 2 meter setup, how we're going to maintain our meter versus having their meter. So we'll formalize an agreement with them, but wanted to ask you all what you want to do from the meter curb stop valve perspective.
I like the proposed meter curb stop, as you just discussed. And is this going to be an implemented policy, because Shin Creek or Shin Farms isn't the only neighborhood that will be Iredell Water and our wastewater? The high school that's being built over there, I believe, is going to be the same way, where they're getting Iredell water and wastewater. So is this going to be just an agreement that moves forward where if they're being serviced by another water service, that this is the standard procedure?
It'll probably be pretty much the same agreement, but two separate agreements, so that we don't have the school tied in with the development. We would do one for the development, one for the school,
Yeah.
but yeah, if it basically would be the same.
So I guess my question is maybe more around policies. Is this just a policy moving forward that we'll do in those areas where Iredell Water or a different water source services them?
Yes, sir, yeah.
I think it makes sense. I don't think that was an offer when we were discussing it, at least originally, but it makes more sense if we don't have to maintain those meters, and having Public Works provide monitor those. As long as we can get a firm agreement with Chin Farms that we can get their proper data and also ensure that, I guess there's two agreements, one with Iredell Water and then one with Chin Farms, that we should be in a good place.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that item? Next item is discussing park lighting.
Thanks, sir. So on my first day, council approved moving forward with a quote for park lighting at ESC Park. This include removing some entertainment lighting that had been proposed previously and then adding some lighting for the playground and amphitheater. The original quote at that meeting was for $1.649, and then the revised quote with that additional lighting was just over $2 million. So currently the Capital Reserve Fund for ESC Park has $843,000 in it, which leaves us with a little bit of a shortfall. Rather than taking money out of fund balance, Gina and I were sort of proactive, if you will, and reached out to a number of banking institutions to get quotes for financing. We got 3 proposals back that you have in front of you, but basically this would finance those light fixtures out at the park over 5 years at a pretty decent rate, and would allow us to not expend so much fund balance all at once, and it would also free up that $843,000 to do some additional park improvements. We could put some of that towards the debt service. We could put some of that towards the shelter and restroom building that we have designed for out there. So we'd have that money to discuss for future improvements at the park. But the recommendation from us is to finance those lights so that we're not, again, eating into that fund balance with that 1.26 shortfall. If you all are agreeable with moving forward that way, we can prepare a resolution for Thursday night's adoption or adoption of the Thursday meeting. And we would have to go to the LGC for approval because it's an improvement to real property. It requires their approval, but should be a pretty quick process since we already have proposals from banks to go to the LGC, close on the loan, and then move forward pretty quickly.
Were there any additional bids come in?
No, just those 3.
Okay.
Are you referring to bids for funding?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any additional bids for construction?
No, sir.
It's my understanding when we went to LGC for Keystone and renovation costs that we didn't have the proper 3 construction bids in place in order to retain LGC approval. Is that same process for the lighting and the funding for that?
So the funding will be something that they'll look for, which we've satisfied through that RFQ process, but the lighting itself, because it's like a specialty installation, is not going to require that construction approval.
I assume that's 3.78.
Yes, sir.
Pretty good rate.
Justin, this will be paid off with the Keystone funding?
So that's a good clarification point. So the original idea was to install the park lights with money that we expected to get from a loan to renovate Keystone. So we bought Keystone for $8.7 million. We were asking the LGC for a loan of $20 million, and we were going to use the difference between the purchase price and the loan amount for these lights and for renovating Keystone. When we went to the LGC, we hadn't actually gotten bids from formal construction drawings to actually do the renovation work. So they said, we're not giving you any money for anything else other than purchasing the building. So we got the loan from the LGC, purchased Keystone, and that left us with no money for park lighting. So we could wait until we go through that process with Keystone and then roll this loan into the Keystone loan. I don't have an issue if you all want to do that. I think it's a little, just from a staff maintenance perspective, it's a little difficult to track an asset that we have in the park versus an asset that's going to be basically tied to renovations inside that building. And it's also going to be a much longer time frame. So I know that y'all have been talking about this lighting for a while. And this financing option, just the lights by itself, would allow us to move forward in a month or two. And if we tie it in with the Keystone property, it's going to end up being more like 8 to 10 months.
I think we should move forward with it now. That was kind of the intention back in December. I think we were hoping to see all this in January and understanding, holidays and stuff, things get delayed. But here we are, February now, and I believe it's time to move forward with it.
Second. Oh, that was not a motion.
I motion that if I need to.
Now, if you all are in agreement, we'll just prepare everything for Thursday night's agenda.
Any other question or comment on that? Sounds good.
All right.
So just a point of clarification maybe for Emily. Approving this, I know we talked about additional ball fields. The infrastructure will still move forward for whatever addition that we approved. So this figure is inclusive of everything we talked about.
I can build right off of that.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? It's probably for Emily. Added fitness trail lighting and then delete fitness trail.
Yep, so
What does
I
that mean?
had her to quote how much it would be to light this fitness trail up here, if we wanted to do that. It was gonna be an additional, $356,000 to light the fitness trail. No more than, the number of programs that we do on the fitness trail. We're able to take transitional lighting into there, mobile lighting, trails and treats, those type things. So, I decided at the time to take that quote off, move forward with this, and she said the infrastructure's there. If we decide to go back in and add that, we can. So maybe that's something we do in the future, but for the need of the lighting, we can. But I also have solar lights on that trail now, so you're able to see to get in, able to see to get out. So there is some lighting that's already there. So I was just curious how much the price would be on that while we were already doing it. So.
That's great.
But if we do decide to go back and do that, we know how much it would be. She's already designed it, laid it out. It's the bollard lighting that's like knee height. It's the little, have the domes on the top. So we already have a design in place if we do decide to go back and do that.
Great. Any other questions on the park lighting?
None of that lighting over here by the dog park is gonna disturb the federal protected wetlands, is it?
Nope.
Okay, just making sure.
We're good.
Next item is the agenda for Thursday.
Yes, sir.
No?
We have our normal items 1 through 6, and then 7's the consent agenda. Kim is chipping away at those minutes, so you've got a number of sets from October, but nice work so far. So we've got those, and then item G is approval to amend the meeting schedule. So after you all approved the meeting schedule last month, we noted that there were a couple of meetings scheduled on holidays, so this will shift those around and just update that meeting schedule. Any questions on that one?
I didn't check. Is our retreat on there?
The 26th and 27th?
I didn't know that because it was a special, that's considered a
Special
special meeting, not a regular set meeting date.
Just a regular meeting.
Yeah, 25, 26. Yeah, it's
And
just
while
kind
we're
of-
talking about the schedule, would like to bring up possibly changing the date again. I would like for everybody to, on the board, to think about that, because I would like to possibly change that to 6 o'clock so that we don't have such late nights. My very first night, we were out here until 10:30. And I do foresee us being here late some, and after 9 o'clock, a lot of us are gonna start shutting down, myself included. And I just think that hour would give us and the community time to get home and be safe, and we're not here until late at night. Extremely late. 10:30 is late to me. So I would just like for everybody to think about it, and don't just think about yourself, because there's other people sitting here too. That's all I can say. Thank you.
All right, any comments or thought on changing it? I know we've kind of been, had comments around that before, but any other thoughts?
Just, my only thought on it is, our meeting times are pretty undeterminable. You know, sometimes, depending on the agenda we have, or the meetings, or the public comment, you know, they might run even later than 11 o'clock, even if we began at 6. I know that it would cut an hour back. I would be more concerned with the community's input on their ability to get here. For me personally, 7 o'clock is the best time. The later, the better for me.
You can get here at 4 o'clock on Monday.
So what about
So it's difficult.
the planning and zoning switched at 7 to 6? How's it going for us?
It's been great. Everybody gets out early. We're not
What was their time before?
7.
7.
Yeah.
And then
That's
they
what,
used-
oh, you're saying
I
they
was
moved,
saying
yeah,
they
yeah.
switched to 6. I just wondered, was any impact
Oh,
on
okay.
the community, any complaints? Because I know when I'm going to a meeting, there's a lot of citizens there. So I just, see the work there pretty well.
Do we have, maybe Justin, we can discuss, just, again, at the retreat, that maybe provide what, some of our neighboring communities are doing?
Sure.
From a time perspective. This has been the time since I've been on council, so, but I'm open either way.
Well, I'll speak personally. I know Tanya said don't speak personally, but I'm still speak personally. 7 o'clock is best for me. That's all I'm saying. Especially if I have to go to Raleigh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just makes a long day, especially.
It's been a long day for 5 years, but it's fine.
Yeah.
10:30 at night.
All right. We'll discuss again at retreat.
Okay.
All right.
So item H and item I, basically just start the process for annexation. This is approval of a resolution to instruct the clerk to investigate a certificate of sufficiency. So no actual annexing on Thursday night, just starting the process to annex later. So for the public's information, there's a couple of steps before you actually vote on annexation, where we have to determine that indeed that property can be annexed by the town of Troutman. That's basically what it is. And so you all approve a resolution that instructs Kim to make sure that it's okay for us to annex. And then we typically do that 1 month, and the next month you all will consider the actual annexation.
This is primarily setting the date for the public hearing.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And then item J is a resolution to amend the fee schedule. So we're not changing any fees in the middle of the year here. We are actually adding fees to the schedule that we haven't had on the schedule. One of those being the garbage collection fee. So that's a fee that everybody pays that I think is posted differently on our website, but that needs to be included in the actual schedule of fees. And along with that, we've got some fees from the Parks and Rec Department that weren't in there. And anything else of note, Gina, that I'm missing?
just the notary fees that we have, that's one of our biggest customer service activities that we have here at Town Hall. So we've been charging the same price, but just hadn't been on that schedule.
So again, no changes to the fees, just putting all the fees in one place is basically what we're doing. Any questions on that?
As far as the fee schedule, the only thing I didn't see was a nonprofit fee for the chamber usage. It looked like you had in-town, out-of-town fees, but no nonprofit fees for the chambers.
Somebody that's more familiar with that fee?
That is correct, there's not one.
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever.
Oh, there's not a fee?
There's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is nonprofit, like, how do they use it, by request or availability? And what are the hours of availability?
Yeah.
For nonprofit, it's usually during the day. That's like Rotary, Iredell, EDC, who else? Oh, your Public Works. Yeah, Able One. So that type of, that meet here during the day, there's no fee for that. Only thing that really meets here at night is HOAs, and they're charged. In town, out of town HOA fees, for
I guess
residents and non-residents.
I guess my question is there a defined time period that nonprofits are to utilize the chambers within? I mean, because as we discussed, meeting schedule time during the day or night is a little bit different depending on individual schedules, right? Like, some people are
have
more
never-
night owls, some people are more early birds.
Yeah, we've never had, Rotary comes in at 7:30, but usually there's somebody here on Rotary that lets them in. Other than that, nobody's requested nighttime, nonprofits.
I think we have a general rule that we only stay open till 8 because one of my staff members has to stay here until everybody's here. So it's usually only until 8 o'clock. And what we do, so the schedule of fees has to be put forth in front of council every single year with the budget ordinance. So I can make sure when we come back for the 27 budget that I can add something in there about nonprofits not having a fee for council rental.
Yeah, just for kind of defined terms, right? But also maybe the hours of operation of that rental period too, so that it's documented.
It is first come, first served, and if there's a need for us to have a meeting or training for police, then we call them and say, hey, you're gonna have to reschedule. We come first.
Do I have a policy?
So you're speaking more of a policy?
I think
than
so,
anything
yeah.
Yeah, we
else
have a
that would
policy.
be-
We do have,
Yeah,
we do have a
okay.
policy, I'm not
Okay.
sure that it specifies the time frame, but
Yeah.
we'll pull the policy and we can look at that, have the time frame to it.
You should have a policy in those policies I sent you.
I have a quick question about the notary, Mayor, if I may ask. Is the notary there, from 8 to 5? Do they have regular hours?
Yeah, it's when our office, from 8 to 5, when the offices are
I
open.
see that question asked a lot
Yeah.
on Troutman locals, and so I was just curious, so now I'll be able to answer that. Thank you.
We're good.
All right. Next is policy 69, which is a cash and investment policy. I'll let Gina speak to anything she wants to mention about it, but I'll give you the overview, which is basically we have town funds, and we don't need the totality of all those town funds to meet all of our obligations every month. So we want to be able to move some of those town funds into a savings account, if you will, or a money market account, something to earn some interest with the funds, since they're mainly just sitting idle. So this policy gives Gina and I the ability to move some of those funds with sort of a pre-approval by you all. And I probably have stolen all your thunder before. If there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, Justin's right, so the rules and regulations around cash investment are heavily regulated by the state. So we have very strict limitations as to what we can and cannot do, but without this policy right now, it's really not up to either of us to be able to go and invest in something like the trust management or any kind of large interest-bearing account. So this will give us that opportunity, and I just want to point out one of the things we did put in there is that quarterly, it would come back to you with a report that shows all of our investments, what we've earned, and where they're at. And there's only specific institutions that we could do work with, and that's set up by the state. So we've got state protections, and now this policy will really give us insight as to how we want to best just earn some interest on the funds that we have.
Great. Great idea. Any other questions on that?
Easy way to make a few extra dollars.
So I'm assuming just from a process perspective, we definitely keep liquid what we need, maybe a little bit more, but then we start to invest kind of the overage, if you will, that's in the general fund.
Yeah, and the thing is, and you'll see in the policy that we actually have a very structured way. So liquidity is one of our biggest, the biggest thing that we want to maintain, because we want to make sure we have enough cash for our operations. And then we kind of, go down from there. And it is common practice, and you'll see in this policy, we don't do high-risk investments, and this gives us the opportunity that if something starts to happen with, say, a money market account that we have, this gives me the ability to go in and move that cash out very quickly so that we don't have to take the chance, so that we have a really stable source of funds for us to be able to use both short-term and long-term. And then the third priority is the yield, right? Trying to make as much money of the cash we have on hand as possible for the benefit of the town.
Thank you for that.
Next item is a proclamation in recognition of America's 250th birthday. As you all are aware, that is this July 4th, and there's some efforts going on across the county, state, nation to celebrate that. And so this would be a proclamation to recognize it within the town of Troutman. And Emily, is there anything you want to add to that?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
Next item is our quarterly report from Mr. Getzinger.
Mr. Getzinger, you wanna, I know you got some, other than the report, you might wanna talk about tonight. Okay.
And I apologize for, it was something that was sort of late getting put before you all, but anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to get in here and just let you know. I won't, first of all, I'm Leighton Getzinger, I'm chair of the ABC board, and I think I've served time with a lot of you in here, and for one reason or another, but there's a couple that I haven't yet met, but would love to have an opportunity to sit down with you and explain to you what we do and how we do it and why we do it and the relationship we have with the town, et cetera. So, but anyway, the reason why I'm here is that back in July of 2021, the town approved for us to create a specific capital improvement project fund, which basically was money to be set aside for the second store. And that, coupled with what we call our working capital allowance, that we're maxed out with that, and we're now maxed out with the specific capital improvement project fund. We're estimating that it's going to cost us about $3.5 million to build a second store, based on current construction costs per square foot, and we're talking about a 7,000 square foot building, which is basically the same size as the one we've got over here. We may have to do something a little bit different, but we're looking at putting it on an acre of land. And we, as you know, we own the land that we have out on Highway 21. The store here is paid for. So we have no debt, but we need to, because we are restricted by funds that we can actually have to designate to put money towards, we have to have the appointing authority's approval. We approved it at our meeting in January, but we now need the town's approval. And what we're asking for is to bump it from $500,000 to $1.5 million. And that basically the reason for that is it's gonna take us probably 30 months from now, based on how everything's working out, to get going and get the store hopefully somewhere close to ready to be occupied. But we're working with C2C, who I think you may know. That's Jimmy McKnight and Richard Densler, with that crowd, and they are they have a group that has an interest in the whole parcel they have out there, which includes our parcel in there. And as that develops, I will bring you updates at our quarterly meetings. But right now, you know, it's still a work in progress, and it's in the hands of the real estate attorneys and trying to work all the kinks out. But anyway, so I can answer any questions you might have about any of the working capital fund is made up of all the cash that we would have, cash accounts that we have, plus our inventory, which really, no pun intended, is not, it's not liquid. I mean, even though it's counted as liquid, it's added, so it's added in with the cash. We would have to sell it off in order to be able to use it to buy anything with it or pay any bills with it. So it's one of those things that's how it is and why it is, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so we have $682,242 in working capital, and we're right at $500,000 in the special capital project fund. And so rather than coming back in another 6 months to ask for another increase, is just went ahead and asked for it, because we know by the time we break ground, the cost of construction is only going to continue to go up. And just real quickly, we figured that we would need to be doing $4 to $5 million before we would build the second store. That, if we pay cash, we won't have to do that. There's a market segment out there that's being serviced, I think, by another board, just because we're not close enough to them. And we feel like that, even though we will pull market share off of the store here, feel like if getting a presence out there will give us that opportunity to start growing and servicing a part of our community that's currently not, having to make a road trip to get what they buy. And as you all know, and you probably read, I mean, the sales of alcohol across the state and across the nation continues to be in a downward trend, but we are holding our own. But so I don't think we'll see, we may hit 4 million before we break ground, but that won't be a showstopper if we're not at that point, because we don't have debt, and if we build and pay cash for the second store. And we are number 4 out of 168 boards in the state in profitability percentage. So Mooresville's number 1, we're number 4, and our neighbors to the north are somewhere in the 60 range. So we are running the store very efficiently. We're not spending money that we don't need to spend. I still do I'm on the books as the financial guy, so that we don't have to have that person yet on board. So anyway, I'm gonna shut my mouth. I know you don't want to get out of here. Any questions anybody have?
Yeah, so Leighton, just so that I'm clear, this is increasing your working capital funds from 500 that we have currently approved up to 1.5 million.
Right, but this is, rather than the working capital, it's the specific, capital improvement fund.
I'm sorry, capital improvement
Yeah,
fund.
yeah, and
Not your working
I may
capital
have
fund.
confused
Right.
you with that
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Okay. So any questions for Leighton on that? All right.
Well,
Go ahead.
I guess just for my understanding, or maybe others, how close together should ABC stores be? I mean, it's not like they have an option to go to any private liquor stores or anywhere else in the state. And, you got one 5.5 miles up the road in Statesville, 9 miles down the road in Mooresville, and this one's gonna be about 4 miles from the existing one here in Troutman. I mean, how much service do we have to give to liquor?
Well, the question's a good question, and there is not a rule of, there's a rule of thumb if you try to be about 5 miles, from the nearest other liquor store, regardless of which board it comes from. A lot of boards are county boards, so they have a little bit better control over where their locations are, but we are individual, municipal boards within this county, so, we have to deal with what we have available, but we're out on the outer limits of what our perimeter is for the town. That'll be, unless something miraculous happens, will be the second and last store that we will be able to build just because of the way the geography works.
Yeah, it's just,
the boundaries.
to me, in this, like, right now, it's a hard ask, being that we just lost 2 youth in our community to a drunk driver over on, was it Ogwell Amity or Amity Hill?
Yes.
You know, head-on collision, 2, fruitful youth, lives lost to incredibly drunk driver.
Well, I'm not here to promote drinking
Yeah.
that by any stretch. I don't even consume alcohol myself, but I just say that there is a part of our community that does use it, and I would like to think the majority of them use it responsibly, but I don't know that you control drunk driving by not building another ABC store. I think they're gonna find it somewhere, wherever they want it.
And again, this is not a request to build the store. This is more to increase
Correct.
the
Yeah, and
capital improvement fund.
we've got a lot of work to do in front of us before we would be in a position to break ground, and a lot of that comes through the town in that process. And of course, a lot has already come here through the annexation and also the rezoning that we did, back, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. So, still have to, the design review board will have its say on all that. And we've, obviously, our board has the authority, but we are not naive enough to think that we would not share whatever the design and everything that we're gonna do in our timeline coming through you, just because that's the right thing to do.
Okay. So is there a motion to increase the capital improvement fund for the ABC board from 500,000 to 1.5 for the construction?
I will make a motion to.
Okay. Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion is made, receive the second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition?
No?
Motion passes. Thank you, Leighton, and we will see you Thursday night?
Yes, sir.
For the report? Okay. All right. great.
And I will keep it short.
All right, thank you. All right, next item.
Yes, sir. Under new business, item A is consider the appointment of a town council non-voting ex officio member of the design review board. That's just typically a nomination, I think, that you all take from the floor and vote on at that meeting.
This is a position that was open
I'll have
Okay.
that
Yeah.
position.
Okay, great. Then we let him, just nothing.
We'll get him back in another
Yeah,
capacity.
We're good. All right. So council needs to think about that between now and Thursday.
Yeah, I mentioned that I would mind being, like I was already on the design review board before, as a voting member.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to stay with that.
Okay.
Good thing about being retired, free time.
I've heard that by somebody else. Yeah. All right.
An item that we actually would like to add underneath this one would be appointment of a town council member to the comp plan steering committee. Andrew's been working on getting members together for that, and of course we'd like a council representative to be on that committee. So we'll add that one onto the agenda for you all to consider as well.
So council, think about whether or not you want to serve on the compensation plan steering committee as well, Thursday.
That's the comprehensive land use plan committee.
Oh.
Compensation, all right.
The
I
public
need more
would consider it compensation, you know.
Yeah, right.
That would fill in the pockets.
Yeah. Comprehensive plan. Thank you for the clarification. All right, next item.
Next item is approval of a resolution to accept Miracle Lane for Town of Troutman maintenance. Andrew, you got anything you want to cover on that?
No, just, this is the roadway that's between Dollar General and Bojangles down south of exit 42. It's about 300 feet long. It'll eventually continue once that big massive property between 77 and Bojangles is developed. They finally built it up to town standards. For some reason, they've renamed it Miracle Lane. Maybe it's a miracle they finally fixed the road up.
So that,
But-
that crater that was there, probably took a miracle to fix that.
Yep,
but-
so, but anyway, they're just requesting town maintenance, and as with all these requests, West Consultants is inspected and signed off on it, and we're just doing the process and seeing if you guys wanna go ahead and accept it.
Question, so it's there. We accept it, again, there's 18-wheelers going on that road.
Well, right now, the only 18-wheelers would be going to the Dollar General, because that section of road just ends, and then it's blocked on that, that
So it's blocked right now.
thing behind Bojangles, that
Yeah.
really nasty section.
Yeah.
So just the delivery trucks to Dollar General
Yeah,
are all
not
together.
worried about them, just the overnight parking kind of.
Yeah, we haven't had any issues.
Okay.
So, and this one in particular was built to commercial standards, so the
Okay.
weight of the tractor trailer shouldn't be an issue either.
Okay.
So,
So I have a question too. So it just ends right there, so nothing's going right there behind the Dollar General?
there will be, but at this time, no. The developer of that property is in constant contact with us, and ideas out, many ideas, but nothing is, nothing concrete has come my way yet.
Speaking of concrete, what kind of businesses can go back there? Because we've seen what happens with our roads, and we own the road over here at the concrete place, and that road is an absolute mess.
It's
Is
zoned-
there the ability for those type of businesses to go back there? Because if so, that is going to be a big expense, because this road is.
The way it's currently zoned is highway business, which is your typical retail. Up here, I guess, all that stuff's zoned industrial, so you probably are getting heavier truck traffic. But again, I don't know, when that roadway was built, I don't know what standards it was constructed to. We now have standards where you build commercial roads to commercial standards, so all I can tell you is anything in the future is gonna be built to town standards. Anything in the past that's been here a long time, can't tell you the specs of it.
So is it safe to say it'll be a miracle that it doesn't turn into Iredell Avenue over there?
We can say some Hail Marys, yes, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Tanya, I'm glad you bring that up, because that's something that was brought to me at an event I was at last month. A citizen had come to me and said, the safety dangers around that road and the destruction of it, and when is it going to get repaired? I've personally, just over a year ago, had an accident there where I had slightly rear-ended somebody because of the gravel and wasn't able to stop in time.
Which road?
On Murdoch and Iredell Avenue, right in front of the concrete plant that Tanya's talking about. The whole intersection's tore up from those concrete trucks driving through there. I think it's been looked at, has it not?
Yeah, we're working on getting estimates with the engineers right now. That was part of one of the roads that brought to council attention to potentially repay.
And that's just for Iredell Avenue, that's not Murdoch, right?
It's just Iredell Avenue.
Yeah, okay.
So when they put that concrete plant in there, they put the entrance and the exit on Iredell Avenue,
I see.
which affects us.
Little bit.
majorly. Yeah, we're working with engineers right now, getting estimates on all those roads. That's one of them.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
I believe that's it, sir. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, can I add one more thing to my comments, please, Kim? I was talking about the staff and the different things the staff have done. I had to, Chief, I wanted to particularly bring out the officers that are at the football games. They are so nice and friendly and interacting with the students there. How it makes the students even feel, and staff, and not staff, but attendees, feel really safe, when they're there. Of course, we don't have anybody playing, but we go and watch our kids' we go just about every game. And so, I just wanted to commend them on their professionalism and, there at the games.
I'll pass that on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I do have one question back on Miracle Lane. Is there any way we can get like a live overview of these instead of just a printed picture that kind of says what it looks like? Because I think a lot of us are aware of the concrete barriers, the large hole. I mean, there were concrete barriers when this large hole was there that could probably engulf an 18-wheeler. Do we have the capabilities to have like a drone aerial over that so that we can see what we're actually looking at from a top view?
We can assist with that.
Okay.
The same before approval of
Yeah,
taking over a road, yeah.
yeah.
And, if you would like to see that prior to taking action on this one, I mean, there's no rush, this has to be passed on Thursday night.
Okay.
Miracle Lane isn't gonna disappear if we don't approve it this month, so if you'd like to continue that, that's fine.
Well, I mean, if it's capable to have that for Thursday night's meeting, I'm not pushing to delay it at all, but I also don't want to light a fire that staff needs to jump on it if it's not of urgency, right? Like the proposal's before us.
Chief said he can have it Thursday.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'll want to photograph it and send it.
Good?
All right, we're good? Awesome. I like that idea. Anything else for the good of the order? Great, thank you.
George is back.
You
Do you wanna do
failed
that in an email?
miserably.
Do you just wanna send him an
Is
email?
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?